Hello and welcome to VR Verdict, episode 67, our weekly podcast where we talk about everything VR. I am PJ.
I'm Wookie.
And we would like to share VR with you. Apparently I have that memorized now because I totally deleted that out of the note page. But it's been over a year. I should have it, right?
Should.
Joining us this episode is Sean Murphy, creator of Void Rifter. There's links to everything in the show notes if you want to check it out. There's a demo build that you can test out, and the game should be releasing soon. Before that, Wookie, what's new with you? We haven't done that for more than 6 months, so I thought I'd throw you off a little bit.
What's new with me? As tipped off in the episode, I've been playing a little Mass Effect Legendary. Not a lot new. My car's still in the shop. They're trying to squeeze it in for a shifter bushing rebuild and a idler and pitman arm replacement that took me in a 3-week treasure hunt to fit the correct tie rods because those arms are really hard to find, I guess. Almost had to pay $1,000 just for those. I got away with $140 thanks to eBay.
Wow.
Funny enough, always ask on help forums. This just future reference for that kind of stuff. Because I was looking on eBay like crazy. Couldn't find these things anywhere. Found one shop in Germany that had one. The other one's discontinued. Info only left up for info. And that was like, the $600 by the time I was getting done. Like, good Lord, for a little piece of metal. Asked a junkyard, and he just heard him clickety-clack on the keyboard. He found one on eBay. Like, it was posted in between the last time I looked and called him, and I was like, done, bought it. And I asked on a help forum for the same kind of car. I'm like, look, I found one of these. Wouldn't mind an extra set since I don't know when I'm going to have to search for these things again. I hope never. And one of the guys replied, there's one on eBay, idiot. I looked, bought it. I'm like, holy shit. I've been looking for these with the part numbers, everything.
Nice.
Use help forums. That's the best part about the internet. But that's what I've been up to, stressing about trying to get that car back so I can drive it.
It's
66 Volvo needs to. I haven't given it a good proper stretch. So that's awesome. What have you been up to?
Oh, just playing a lot of different games. Been playing Stones of Harleth. Came out this past week. It's a very neat.
The Oculus store. I got an alert from the Oculus app. PJ's rated this Stones of Harleth.
The creator of the game is actually joining us soon.
Nice.
But it's a really, really charming pixel art, like old school RPG in VR, and it's amazing. I really love it. So check that out. Also come back and check out when they join us on the podcast. Been playing that. Still playing Demio when we can. Demio, sorry. Sorry. And then finally got around to help give my feedback on the game District M, where they joined us a couple weeks back. I've been having some issues with my main headset, so it's been really tough saying, hey, I'll play this and check it out and give you feedback. But finally got going. I got caught up on a backlog of people I said, hey, I'd check that out and get back to you. So that felt good. That's about it. Just working on keeping up on games. This episode, if you're listening to it, it's probably Friday, June 11th. I just want to point out the Upload VR showcase on June 12th. Check that out. It's basically VR's version of E3. I can't wait till VR is a part of E3 because that'll help get a lot of people looking at VR. But until that happens, this is a very good benefit or, I don't know, option.
Alternative?
Alternative is the word I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah. So check that out. A lot of good games. I know Demio is going to showcase some of their next expansion there. So super excited for that.
Cool.
But that's enough about us. Now, check out the interview with Sean Murphy and let him explain to you what Void Rifter is. And then we'll play that.
Be entranced by the colors.
Well, Wookie, this is Sean. Sean, this is Wookie.
Yo.
Whoa.
Sean is the lead developer on the game Void Rifter. I didn't see if you guys had a studio name or not.
Yes, Piece by Piece XR Development is the name of the company.
Okay.
Just a fancy name, nothing exciting. Usually game studios call themselves like Saucy Panda or something like that. And I just went with Piece by Piece because it sounded professional. And,
Actually, we've mentioned your game on the podcast before, almost well over a year ago, actually, in April last year. We were doing like a side quest roundup of games back then, and I had played your original build, I think. We were pretty close to one of them. And I really liked the game. It was like playing a mech game from the cockpit of a TIE fighter, so it was awesome.
yeah, that comment actually, because I did watch it right after you guys posted it, and I was like,
Oh,
yeah,
nice.
we're in something. Because it used to be a team of guys. Now it's just me working on it. But I intentionally kept the TIE fighter looking cockpit in specifically because of that comment. They had to
Oh,
do
nice.
a total overhaul of all of the art assets because some of the artists left and we need
Aw.
better performance on the devices because the Oculus Quest is a really, really hard platform to work for because of its limitations. But
Yeah.
and so I had to do an overhaul of all the art assets, and then I also added in the customization system. So I kept the TIE fighter cockpit in there for that reason.
I appreciate it. For anyone listening that maybe hasn't heard of Void Rifter or played it or seen it, how would you describe the game?
Void Rifter is I believe the term is boomer shooter. One of our resident Discordians was able to classify the game as a boomer shooter. I didn't necessarily want to classify it as first because it's a mech game. There's so few mech games on the market that
Sure.
each game can be different in its own way. So I was just kind of trying to recreate what I loved about Doom 2016 and Halo into
Nice.
one big adventure with a giant robot. And I've been building giant robot games for a long time. So, but this is the first one that's ever come to market. But yeah, so you play a giant robot, and the whole purpose is to get your dog back. The dog does survive. Also, it is alive. It is not killed. To answer the question from the podcast initially.
It's not John Wick Mech Warrior crossover.
No, the dog does not die, thankfully. That's a spoiler, and I apologize to anybody who wants to be in the story, but or wants to really enjoy the story. But the dog doesn't die. But you do have to get the dog back. So
You gotta have something to fight for.
exactly. Yeah, so giant mech game. You start on Earth, you go to another dimension because these creatures use light from our dimension to power their entire civilization in their dimension because the matter from our reality is unstable there, which creates a heck of a load of energy. And yeah.
That's awesome. So you say you've been working on mech games for a long time. So I was going to ask, where did the concept come from? But apparently you've just kind of been working on maybe not the genre, but the class maybe of game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been making games for about 12 years now. And the thing that I've always gravitated toward was robots, big, giant, pilotable robots, because I grew up with Gundam and Mech Warrior and stuff like that, and Mech Assault. And so for me, it was just such a natural thing to do. I mean, I love giant robots, and VR came along, and I was like, it'd be great, a giant robot game in VR. Are there any? No, there aren't. Well, here's a good chance. What can I do? How can I push this device to actually look good? And I was looking around a lot of the communities, and they said stuff like, "Oh, the quest's really limited. You can't do a whole lot of stuff. Blah 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 blah. Maybe you're limited to these little puzzle games and all that stuff, and cartoony graphics and stuff." And I was like, "Well, hold on a second. I'm sure we could get post-processing working on that." I mean, and so I did that, and then I chose to go with a simplistic art direction. It's a little bit more complex artistically now, but yeah. And so over the years, I've just been mulling around game ideas, and this was one, and VR was one that I just couldn't help become obsessed with.
Yeah, I've always wondered. I've played 2 other mech games in VR that have been pretty good. Why aren't there more, do you think, since it's kind of VR lends itself to that really well?
Well, I think that the reason why there's not a lot of mech games in general is because it's a very niche market that's not very marketed. I mean, the most marketed game right now is MechWarrior 5. And, there's countless VR mech games like Vox Mechana, which is a really cool one. I'm a huge fan of it. Me and my friends and my significant other played a lot, and it's a great time. We're all screaming and yelling, trying to get our mechs to cooperate. It's hard to build a good mech game. I think Hawken proved that. If you guys had played Hawken,
Yeah.
I did
it
back in the
was
day for a little bit.
it was a damn good game. But the reality was not a lot of people wanted to play it when it came to PC. I mean, it's still active on PlayStation and Xbox, but on PC, they've shut down the servers, which is very unfortunate because I would love to use it as a reference, but I don't have a PlayStation. I don't have an Xbox.
Sure.
Yeah, we used to play a game called Chrome Hounds that Sega owned, and you
Chrome
could customize. Yeah, it was on 360, I think. PJ, is that right?
Yeah.
You could make your own mech. There was like a little logo creator. I had Brian the dog from Family Guy, like on the front of this shotgun tank mech. There was all sorts of stuff you could do. And the multiplayer was like, there's communication towers, and if you got too far from your friends, you couldn't talk in game chat. You'd have to go take a tower, and then your communication network would expand, and you could do PvP. And they shut the servers down. And I was like, ugh,
Yeah, it was good.
all my mechs. I was like, no, I can't get to them.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of the unfortunate thing of mechs is it's like fighter jet games, they're great when they're done well, like Project Wingman, that's a damn good
Yeah.
game. But how many good accessible first person VR flight games are there? I mean, there's Microsoft Flight Simulator, but that one still has a barrier of entry of being your hardware.
Yeah.
And then stuff like DCS World is fantastic, but you got to learn how to fly an aircraft properly. And so accessibility, this is kind of where mech games kind of fall into, is because you get a lot of games in mechs which are often too arcadey. You get a lot of games that are often not arcadey and too grindy and stuff like that. And so the unfortunate reality is it's just not a genre for the average gamer, it seems, until now, because VR has totally changed that. I mean, I get people in it who have never played a mech game before, and especially in Void Rifter's latest builds, and they're like, excuse my language, but this is fucking awesome. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. That's so kind. But that's kind of something that I've actually tried to get away from, is Void Rifter is a mech game, but it's less of what we know of mech games and more of what we know of traditional shooters.
Right.
And so that's one of the ways I'm trying to make it more accessible, as well as the simplistic graphics is a tactic of a few reasons why that is, actually. The first reason is for performance. I have no textures in the game. It's all something called material coloring. And so I don't have any textures, so I can store light maps like crazy and get really good visual lighting looking on the hardware. And then I can have post-processing as well, because I'm no longer processing textures in the post-processing. It's just colors. And so I get like a 45% performance increase just from doing that. And this also has the added benefit of being very, I guess, what's the term? I work in hyper casual, and we use the term agnostic graphics a lot, which is super simple and very easy to look at, but also very visually engaging. And so Void Rifter has a lot of that in that. It has those visual aesthetics that are super simplistic, but also when you look at the big picture, it's very pretty. You know what I mean? And so this is kind of one of the ways I'm trying to separate myself from the other mech games, and hopefully it works. But yeah, and that's kind of one of the things about mech games is they are a niche genre. I mean, there's not a lot of them, and there's a game community, another game actually. I'm not sure if you guys have tried it yet. Titan Zero.
I think I played isn't there like a demo of that? It's been around for a while.
Titan Zero is similar to MechWarrior style Oculus Quest VR game that just came out on SideQuest, and they're great guys. I really like what they're doing. They're taking the hardcore approach, and that's fantastic, and I like it a lot. So that's another the game you guys should check out too.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I like when we're talking about just mech games in general, I love that they can span from, the hardcore, like almost simulation type to very arcadey. Because like Wookie said with Chrome Hounds, it was more simulation than arcade. Like you really had to like know what you're doing and piloting the mechs. But then I also loved Mech Assault. You mentioned on Xbox. I actually beta tested that and Xbox Live before they were a thing, and I had the top score in Mech Assault for a couple months, like in the world.
Yeah, we played that a lot.
Yeah. So just it's always been really neat to see different games come out and do really different things with the same kind of I guess genre, if we want to call it that. But so it's really neat that you're trying to kind of forge your own path and make something a little different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, every mech game's different. Every mech game's unique. It's like first-person shooters, right? Every first-person shooter is unique in its own way. But mechs is such a massive market to be able to play with, and there's not a lot of games in there. And I think that there's a few reasons, all the ones I said previously, but also very hard to make a good mech game. It is very hard, and I learned that because you get into these giant robots and you start to realize a few things. One, these things are like specifically going to make people sick. So how do you prevent that? And then things like how do I make sure that when I grab something in the cockpit it feels good and it doesn't feel like a pain? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then also how do I make hitting that rockets button feel good? And so I mean, it is so hard to make these games well that I think that a lot of people get lost in that, trying to make the mech itself feel good. Like I've been playing a lot of MechWarrior 5 with my significant other and a couple friends because we're doing a campaign, and that's kind of the thing about it is it's a hard game, but it's good, But a lot of people don't want hard; they want fun.
Yeah.
And so that is, fun can be hard, but as long as it's not too hard. And so I've kind of abandoned everything that it is that makes a good core to a simulation mech game, and I'm kind of trying to build something that's more of a traditional shooter. And so it separates itself a lot in that way. And so a couple of those systems, I'll talk about the systems because I love the systems I built.
Sure.
It's cool. One of the systems is I have an AI director in there, similar to like what Left 4 Dead has.
Nice.
And so the purpose of this, I think I posted this on Twitter, but is to make it so that the game's adapting to you as a player. And, in MechWarrior 5, the game, you have to adapt to the game. So I want to go the opposite route. And so the AI is constantly watching what you're doing, constantly checking your health, constantly checking how far you've gone, checking how good you are at getting good hits and stuff like that. And it's making sure that the AI it's pushing your way is matching that rather than obliterating you. And so it's to make a game that is more fun than it is aggressive, I guess. It's building directors like this is often used in games to be able to adapt the game, make it feel like it's alive, like it's constantly thinking. And
yeah, you gotta find like a good balance between you're the movie action star, so you get winged but never killed, and then like just hard enough to not get steamrolled or feel like you get bored because you're steamrolling them. So it's cool that you put something like that in there.
And so that actually addresses one of the comments. I was going to say complaints, but more comments we got about Void Rifter's demo, and that was that it was too easy. We actually intentionally did that to make it more easy because we had this system in mind, and we were thinking a lot about the new users to VR because most of the people who come to VR, they're on an Oculus Quest 2, and they've never really played a lot of VR games. And so they're getting used to they played Beat Saber, they played Pistol Whip, and all those really, really awesome games. But when it comes to the extended genres, where it's like, hey, this is the shooter, this is Pavlov, this is, they've not really done that. And so it's kind of hard to push them into those much higher increases of difficulty. And so the demo itself was meant to be easier to play, but more of a rhythmic flow. And so the director kind of solves this problem long term, so that people who are maybe not as proficient in shooters can still really enjoy the game because it's not going to send as many AI. It's not going to make them aim as well. It's not going to make them hit the mark as good. It's not going to make them squat up as well. It's not going to make them defend points so aggressively and things like that, because that's what this AI does. It's essentially an RTS AI, and its whole purpose is to squad the AI up and create a gameplay loop that feels good, but not aggressive.
That makes a lot of sense because I do remember playing the demo, and I wouldn't say it was like super easy, but I killed everything without an issue, and then I hopped into the latest build this weekend and started off kind of the same, and then all of a sudden there were just enemies everywhere, and there was just tons of them. Like, what the hell's going on? They were chasing me around. Like, I thought they were spawning in a location, so I was kind of like trying to flank them and stuff, and then they'd just follow me and stuff. It's like, this is bizarre. Like, so that makes a lot more sense. That's really cool. Because at the end, like, I had there's probably like 20 guys coming at me. I'm like, holy crap.
Yeah. The overwhelming feeling is something I'm trying to really engineer in there too. The rockets are the ultimate solution to large hordes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I think that's really something that's hard to solve. Like, how do I do that? And that's kind of like one of the pieces of advice, or not advice, comments we've gotten about the latest demo that's on our website. And it's that, this is way more difficult. This is way more intense. I feel like I actually have to move. I noticed a lot of people were staying put in the demo, the original demo. They'd stay put and they'd just shoot stuff and be like, yeah, I'm a giant robot, I could do this. And that was kind of the intention initially, but now I want people moving, and I want them moving fast. And so there's multi-classes and stuff like this. You got your heavy, your medium, your light, and you can customize them and all that stuff. So yeah, and so that I had to create AI that worked with that, and this whole director system really works well with that. Something else that I have to make a comment on is the director in that demo, the one that you played this weekend, is kind of broken because it has something called a kill wave, and for some reason it just keeps trying to do the kill wave constantly. And so if you get like 40 plus of them at you, it's like, oh, okay, it's trying to kill me,
Yeah,
but that's been fixed, so
nice. That was fun, but I kept just obliterating them all. I'm like, what do I do? How does this stop? They finally killed me, but it was pretty fun.
Yeah,
and with your systems, like when you're in the cockpit and you have levers and buttons to hit, and it all works really well. Like, you have the throttle, and you have to physically grab, or not physically, but in virtual reality, grab kind of like the controller, and like then you kind of aim it. It's really neat.
Yeah, that was it's kind of like that in the original demo, but we wanted to really make that obvious because that was a conversation I had with all the guys before they left. And that was that, we are aiming, but something feels we need something more. And so I think at the last update we did to that side quest demo, we added the like gun reticle handle thing, and then it really just all came together with that. And so I wanted to expand on that a lot for this. Because something I've discovered is a lot of the aiming in VR is guns, and that's what people are familiar with. But a lot of the aiming in like games like Project Wingman is like where you're looking. You know what I mean? And I don't like games in VR where it's I look here, that's where it targets, because that when I worked in Enterprise XR, we found that it was super nauseating to get people to do that all the time. If things were following their vision constantly, then that would make them slightly nauseous, especially if they're standing. And so sitting, of course, is how you're supposed to play Void Drifter. But that is one of the reasons why I took it off the headset and I put it in the hand. I physically aim the gun. But it also makes it a lot more engaging, a lot more exciting.
It does, and with the games that, the reticule or whatever follows your vision, like, I've played a few of those earlier games, and you almost give yourself whiplash after a time, just looking around, aiming at things, and if you don't have What's that?
Good.
I was gonna say, even if you're like, I don't get VR sickness or anything anymore, but I can't imagine if you did even in the slightest, like how you would even play that kind of game.
Absolutely.
GTA 5's VR mod that dude made works really well. You still got to use the camera to kind of fine tune.
Yeah.
So you're moving your head around a little bit, and even that is, I mean, you're just kind of doing the fine tune. The last, 10% of you actually aiming. Even that's just really weird. So I like the little gun looking reticle you put in there.
Well, thank
into the
you.
mech.
I appreciate that. That a lot of testing. Oh my god. I had been working on a good way to make that work. I mean, in the very first version, there was none. It just was your controller, and I was like, well, they'd aim through the ring of the controller. And then somebody said, that's dumb as hell. Why would they do that? And I'm like, you're right. Maybe I should make it more obvious. And so that's where that came from. There's actually something else that you had mentioned, motion sickness. And this is something I did want to talk a little bit about, and that motion sickness in VR games, especially sliding games like the ones that Void Drifter is, it's such a problem. However, doing quite a bit of research, there is a number of solutions to the problem to make people a lot more comfortable. And after I implemented a lot of these solutions, I've not had a motion sickness issue at all, even with people who have severe motion sickness. Like my significant other, she can't play anything with sliding because she's just instantly sick. But she can play Void Drifter, no problem. And so, which is great because I have a free tester, but
Yep.
also, but
Slightly
also,
rare.
oh, she wouldn't like hearing that. But yeah, and so a lot of the tricks that come in are like a vignette. A vignette is the dark thing around the eyes, so when
Yeah.
you move faster, it slowly creeps in, but you can turn that off. Another thing is, if you make sure that in perspective, there's something around the perspective, so it's like they're looking through like a tunnel, then
Yeah.
for some reason that totally resolves some of the motion sickness issue, as well as putting things that cover the horizon, like the bars at the cockpit canopy. And so if you look and you go through all the customized canopies, they all have that horizon point of the canopy. And so that itself, those steps create a game that for some reason doesn't give people motion sickness. As well
Gives
as
the
there's
ca-
no acceleration. They're just you're instantly going fast.
So it's like the gives your eyes kind of like an anchor point. You
Exactly.
realize that you're in a capsule instead of in a fisheye lens planet.
Exactly.
That's
I
cool.
think. I'm not a doctor though, so I have no idea. There's just stuff just worked. And so I was like, all right, hell yeah. Here we go. But yeah, so I'm really glad that people don't get sick playing it as much as they used to, because there was a lot of bugs in the demo itself, and I noticed in the top 10 side quest games, one of the bugs had showed up in the video itself, and I didn't know about this bug until I saw your video, and I was like, oh, I'm glad I saw that. But it's there was cockpit shake for a little while. I moved it off of the cockpit. Now it's just on the buttons and stuff. But every time the cockpit shake would happen, the cockpit itself would move up to the left just a little bit.
Yeah.
And so if you kept getting hit, if you got hit like 100 times, the cockpit would leave you behind.
It's interesting.
That was a fun bug to find.
Automatic ejector seat.
Exactly.
That's really interesting.
With your current build, are there, or actually for when you're thinking of like actually releasing the game, what like modes or like parts of the game are you focusing on or planning to have? Is it just like a campaign, or are there going to be multiplayer or?
Yes. So initially the release is I have a partnership with Pico Neo. And so
Nice.
I'm releasing on August 1st in the Asian market, and it comes with a campaign which will be updated over the next few months after the release to extend it, because I'm trying to get everything in there, but we'll see,
Mhm.
And this includes multiplayer co-op. so you can play with your friends, kind of thing, up to 4 players through the campaign. So it feels like Halo 3, you know. 'Cause I really like Halo 3, and so
Yeah.
that was a must. And I also don't like playing games alone, so I was like, yeah, there you go. And so that will be included there. Later on, I'm going to release Horde mode, which is actually the mode. It might come with it. I don't know yet. But it might be a later release. But that's what you essentially had played over the weekend. That was Horde mode, and so
Sure.
it's survival essentially. You fight until you die, and that supports up to 4 people as well. And then additionally after that, I will be bringing the PvP. PvP was actually my main focus for the better half of last year, being able to make a good PvP session. There's videos on the YouTube channel piece by piece of those test sessions. I believe PJ you would come to one, but we ran out of time, so you know.
Yep.
But but yeah, getting as many people in there as possible was a challenge. But I say we, but I had a lot of fun working on that. So PvP is something that's coming. It'll be up to, I believe, 8 people per team. Maybe if I can squeeze the performance out of the quest, I'll be able to get up to like 16. We'll see. But yeah, so it's gonna include that. I still have to build the bots to be something that can generate on runtime, because there are bots in the game, but they're mostly for testing purposes right now. But yeah, so it'll include a campaign, which hopefully by the end of the year will be at least 4 hours long. There will be co-op in that campaign, as well as Horde and PvP.
Nice.
Yes.
Also, it's cross-platform. So
That's awesome, especially with VR's, like you said, the limited player base, the cross-platform is, I'm sure, a big help to get everyone playing together at least.
absolutely, I gotta fill the rooms, right?
Yep.
One of the things too is, a VR only release. I mean, we heard there was Half-Life Alyx. You're dooming your game to whether or not people have a VR headset or not. And more people have VR headsets now. I think Facebook has sold well over 4 million Oculus Quest 2s, which is fucking awesome, and I'm super happy about that. But how many people are on Steam? You know what I mean? Like, there's upwards of 30 million people on Steam, and when it comes to Steam, only a small percentage of them have the VR headsets right now. So we're getting a lot higher and higher and higher, which is awesome. But there's still people who just might not ever have a VR headset, and so I want those people to still be able to play the game. So the game will release on pretty much every platform that I will be able to get it onto. I'm a PlayStation partner right now as well, so it will be going into the PlayStation sometime in the end of the year.
Awesome.
Really
Well
cool.
as, yeah, I'm excited for that.
That's
We'll
a
see how
big
it goes.
player base.
Yeah.
That is huge, and so I priced the game around that kind of thing. So the game itself is going to be about $13. Which I think is a good thing to get as many players as possible. It's a low enough price so that everybody can be like, hey, this is just $10, or $13. I can afford this, and hopefully that works. And then I'll add like chapters, because the campaign will be episodic, and I intend to work on Void Rifter for the next few years. And so
Awesome.
rather than doing like sequels and stuff like that, I'm going to do like the Doom Eternal route, which is the chapters and DLC releases. And we'll see how all that goes.
Every developer we talk to, and they have like a flat screen version of their game, is just amazing to me, because I think we say it all the time, but like, we have friends that we play with that aren't into VR, and it's like, I really want to play this game with people, but I don't have any friends that play VR, and so if you can get them on the flat screen version, it's just a bonus.
Yeah,
Very much
absolutely.
so.
Then you can try to convert them secretly.
Exactly. You bring them over and you put the headset on them, and they're like, shit, I was wrong.
You get that one
Actually-
weird friend that built a gaming PC and bought an original Rift. This is November 2017-ish. Built a gaming PC. I've not had one. I think he went overboard on it. Like, I'm assuming $3,000. And then, what was it, $800 or $400 for the headset at that time?
Yeah. Spent a lot of money and
we played like 2 or 3 matches of Elven Assassin, I think. And maybe one Pavlov. And never saw him online again. Like, what are you doing?
Oof.
Oh,
Yeah, the
Yeah.
drought of games was such a problem for such a while. Like you buddy of mine, actually the guy who got me into VR, because I was a VR skeptic, believe it or not. Yeah, I was one of those ones. He got an Oculus Rift and he had the Predator Acer laptop and he was like, "Come on over, give it a try." And I was like, "Nah, it's dumb. It's just this weird heads. It's just a flat screen game, but you can look left or right. What's the big deal? Blah 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 blah." And he's like, "No, just shut up. Get in the car. Let's go. And you're gonna try it, and I promise you'll change your mind." And I was like, "Fine." And so I did. And it's always this way. You put the headset on, you look around for about a minute, and you're like, "Fuck, I was wrong."
Yep.
And after that, I was like, all right, well, this is my career coming forward. I will be using this. I will be building these games, coming soon. I converted a buddy of mine as well. He was also a VR skeptic, and same conversation, exact same conversation. And we get back to the place I was staying at the time and put a VR headset on him, and about 30 seconds in, he's like, "I'm fucking wrong. This is great." And then, the next day he had ordered an Oculus Rift S.
Nice.
So he got it too. It's once you get the headset on them and they try some good games, then it changes their mind pretty quick. And I think that it's really all about that first game selection. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what's that one? Robo Recall. You put people in that, and they're just like, "Wow, this is the greatest thing ever made."
Yeah. Hey, I was gonna ask, how do you, as a developer or anything, like, how do you decide on VR? Because it's got to be a tough choice. How long did it take you to kind of decide, or was it VR is so great, that's what I'm doing, type of thing?
Yes and yes. I think that it's complicated because I worked in Enterprise XR, which is both AR and VR. And I see the potential of virtual and augmented reality, more virtual reality. I'm not really a big fan of augmented reality anymore. But I see the huge potential of virtual reality for just all walks of life. I mean, part of Piece by Piece, which is my company's purpose, was to build occupational health and safety training simulations in virtual reality so that when people go make mistakes in lockout tagout, they don't die. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they can make those mistakes. And so I've always seen that application of things. And after putting the VR headset on for the first time, it was like, yeah, this is it. My career is this. This is going to be it from now on. How do I get the money to do this? And
How
so
do you just kidding.
what's that?
How do you get the money to do this?
Carefully. Budgeting.
Robbing banks.
But yeah. And so, for me, the decision was pretty much, yeah, this is it. I'm doing this. And, working in Enterprise XR really solidified that. And we worked with Magically, worked with the HoloLens, worked with
Nice.
the Unreal and stuff like that. And these are all really great headsets that all had their own strengths and weaknesses. And most of them being the tiny viewport. I don't know if you know this or if you've ever tried a HoloLens Gen 1, but it's about the viewport is about the size of like a I want to say driver's license that's put about 6 to 7 inches in front of your face.
Wow.
So it's tiny. So you got to find the thing you've just placed. And so for me, that was when it's like, well, VR, it's already doing these incredible worlds. So like, let's go over there,
Yeah, I've always wanted to try a HoloLens and never been able to, but they demoed Minecraft way back on that, and it's like, that looks so amazing, but nothing really ever came of it. I know it's more like an enterprise-based thing, not a consumer-based thing right now, but it was so neat that I was like, that's awesome. But
yeah, it's pretty cool. Being able to put things in the world around you is pretty awesome. But I think the big part about virtual and augmented reality is being able to leave the real world and go somewhere else made of imaginations. And I think that, these are all thoughts. These are things, not necessarily facts. But I think that to me is what people really want, is to escape reality sometimes rather than augment reality. I mean, reality is cool and making reality better is cool, but just going somewhere else altogether, or being on the ISS, or being on the moon, or being in a giant robot, killing aliens that stole your dog. I think that it really is so much more exciting to me, at least.
Yeah.
So exciting that I started a company around it.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
I think it's awesome when you see something and you try VR for the first time and it's that mind blowing that you're like, this is my path. Because like you has said or stated it as well, like the player base is small compared to other gaming platforms, or not even gaming platforms, but technology. So just like all the developers we talk to is just, it's amazing that this is what I'm doing. This is the path. I know it's a small thing, but we're gonna work and make it better. And it's just like, I can do nothing but applaud you guys. It's awesome.
I think one of the important things too is the future of it, the potential of it. It's
Mhm.
just astronomical. With like the Oculus Quest 1, you couldn't get them. They were sold out constantly. And the Oculus Quest 2, they more than quadrupled their supply, and it's still hard to get those. And so I think it's in the next 5 or 10 years, it's gonna come. Like I would even say 5 to 10 years now. I'd say it's now next couple years. I mean, like I already have friends that I'm like, hey, how you doing? And they're like, good. How are you? I'm like, good. You try VR? And they're like, oh, I got an Oculus Quest 2. And it's like, oh, I never knew you would have gotten that. They're like, yeah, you look cool, so I wanted to try it, and it was a good price. And I think that now that accessibility is there, I think that it's just a matter of time before everybody has these headsets. Because I mean, it's like that first time all over again. I always struggle to explain to people what the first experience in virtual reality is going to be like, because they're always you just can't hype it up enough. It's such
Yeah.
a mind blowing. It genuinely blows your mind, and it's like playing video games all over again for the first time.
It is, because we've mentioned it many times on here. Like, before we got into VR, I was in a space where like gaming was just getting old, and I was just like, God, we've been gamers all our lives. I'm like, am I just getting old, or like, do the games just kind of not? Do they just suck nowadays? Like, what's going on? And then I put a VR headset. I'm like, holy shit, I'm back. Like, this is awesome.
We're here.
Yeah.
Break the stick off. Let's stay here.
Yeah, it's a shame at the regular non-VR games, because there's so many good ones out there. Why don't they keep making them? But then everything has to be recycled nowadays. So,
Of course. And I think that's where VR comes in. We're totally creating a whole new game industry from the ground up, and I think that's just so awesome. I am so excited to be a part of it because I get to build Void Rifter, and by the time VR is truly fully mainstream, Void Rifter hopefully will be an established name, and everybody like, well, have you tried Void Rifter yet? That's a game to try,
Yeah.
And I hope that's the thing. We'll see. I got to get on the Oculus Store first too. But that's like oh god, that's quite a while of a wait. App Lab to App Lab,
Yep. But I imagine, since you're planning like a flat screen version, you're obviously going to try and hit every VR platform as well.
Absolutely. So I'm aiming for Steam VR, Pico Neo, which is Asian market. Oculus Quest. I even want to go on the Nintendo Switch if I can.
wow.
You were going to say something before I said something.
Oh, I don't remember. It's fine.
But yeah, so I mean, I've been PlayStation VR, everything I can get it on. I mean, it's such an easy game to port. I think that I actually had a conversation about this in a previous event I was at last week. Somebody asked me a question. The question was, how did you find balancing between the VR gameplay and the flat screen gameplay? Was that difficult?
That's a good question.
Thankfully, it wasn't difficult because it just worked. I have this auto aim system built into it that just totally removes that balancing factor. And then also because the Oculus Quest controllers are essentially just a gamepad that's broken in half. It just is there. You know what I mean? Like keyboard, mouse, it all plays the same. I mean, when we were doing the 8v or 4v4 in the PvP, there was no difference in the scores between people who were flat screen versus VR because it just was so by default balanced, which was such an accident. But I'm so glad because that's such a pain to balance.
Yeah, that's a lucky break.
Very lucky. I have to be honest with you, that was extreme luck there.
Is it something you can replicate?
I have no idea.
Oh, okay. Just curious.
We will find out.
The only answer
think-
to that.
I think that
Works.
when it comes down to it, understanding how each platform's strengths and weaknesses are and how do you leverage that comes down to auto aim systems.
Yeah.
Because when it came to the Xbox, the only reason why Halo was something people could genuinely enjoy and be accessible to most gamers who are new to gaming, especially the original Xbox, was their aim assist system, their bullet magnetism, they called it. And that just allowed people to actually be able to get headshots. Because, I mean, like, if I was to turn off auto aim, nobody would hit a damn thing at all. Because it's so hard to aim. Because it's just like little lasers, and each gun aims they're about 20 feet apart. And so the auto aim system always makes sure they're looking both at the same position. But if not, I mean, I had a broken version of the auto aim system a while ago. Just after we'd released the demo, I broke it because I was trying to fix it. Because sometimes it would pick the wrong object you were pointing at. But it was just so difficult to play because I couldn't hit anything. And then I realized the auto aim system was broken, so I had to revise it all. And it works way better. But that balances the game by default. I think that ability for it to be able to, it no longer becomes how good is my shot, and more is how quick am I to shoot. And that's the way I want my games to be: is how quick am I to take that shot versus how good is my shot. Because I think the quick reaction time of a game is, to me, more enjoyable. I mean, I play a lot of Counter-Strike too, and it has some pretty good auto aim in it. And so, that's the accessible nature of it, I think, which makes it easy to port to everything.
I'm the opposite, though. I always have to turn that stuff off. Like, I'm the guy that can't hit crap. In like Black Ops 2, no matter how hard I tried, but I could, with like the crossbow or whatever, I could hit people between wooden boards or running full speed, and I just plonk right between them. Like, I think Gears of War, the first one, I think there was PvP, and I hit someone with a torque bow, a friend of ours, between two of the train cars on the train level. Like, I'm really good at those, like, perfect shots, but it takes me a while. I can't do sustained fire like shooting from a vehicle to save my life. So I have to turn the auto aim off because I know where I want this bullet to go. I've gotten used to a game. Like, I know the mechanics. I know where that bullet needs to drop. And auto aim will, like, try to shoot where the head is instead of where I'm trying to tell them where the head's going to be. And I will just rage out at myself. Like, be like, no, damn it. But it would be fun to be more Twitch action, I guess.
Well, thankfully, Void Rifter, the head is just the whole thing. So
True.
that's and then the rocket's also pretty convenient there. But yeah, I definitely get that. I think that when you play, I always go back to Halo because Halo is, to me, the staple of Halo 3 is, to me, a staple of what I would consider a nearly perfect game.
Mhm.
And SWAT on Halo 3 was superb. I mean, auto aim's turned down a little bit, so it's down to your accuracy and stuff like that, and you got to get the headshots, otherwise you die.
Yeah. We used to play a lot of Halo, and Bungie's just got the whatever first-person shooter
Destiny
mechanism. It's just down. They've got it. Yeah, Destiny. We played a lot of Destiny 1. Getting headshots in that game was like smooth as butter.
Yeah, and they make you feel like you did the headshot too, which I love that. I love it because it's like, yeah, I'm good at this game, but the reality is, it's the math. But that's
like,
okay.
Even with those, I turned all the aim control off, and it's still there.
Yeah.
And all the aim assists. I'm like, damn it, because you throw with the hunter class, whatever it was called, I'd throw the knife and hit him in the head with a knife and be like, did I just really do that? Because I think everybody else is doing that too. Sneaky.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel it, but at the same time, accessibility. I think I went to a talk once at a conference about accessibility in video games and talked about how do you make the difference possible? How do you make the game balanced in that sense? And one of them was, you make sure that the players even have a slight bit of auto aim because otherwise the smoothness of the game vanishes. Because now you're constantly missing everything. And I think if anybody's played Arizona Sunshine, that proves the point perfectly. You can't fucking hit a goddamn thing most of the time. Like you're aiming, but you're just like, I am missing, and like they could be right in your face and you can't even hit them. But when you really line up and you really take your time, you hit it. But the auto aim, I think there could have just a little bit of auto aim. I might have gone a long way there. But I think that
Well,
hunting games are a great one where auto aim shouldn't be allowed. And so for me, auto aim is a staple of what it is that makes the game successful. But I think I will turn off that. I'll put a button in there to make it so you can turn it off.
it'd just be interesting. I always do that anyway. And if it's a new game, I'll get even in flat games. If a new game has a lot of weird frame rate differences to what I'm used to playing, it'll tweak my eyes a little bit. I'll get a headache. But like I'll still turn the auto aim off to try it. And if it's like, nope, I need to practice a little more, I'll go ahead and turn that back on for a while. It's just fun for me. When we play first person shooters and stuff, I'm the idiot that's trying to pull off the stupid crazy kills. Like I'm no good in a team situation because I'm either destroying the entire other team or I can't kill anybody. Like there's rarely times where I'm in the middle, and more often than not, I'm trying to do some. Not that I just go Rambo or something like that, but I'm like, trying to throw a grenade behind them and shoot the grenade or something, anything stupid. I'm just weird about that. And it doesn't feel right to me unless I'm the one that did it. So
I mean, I feel it
It's just
playing way back when playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 1.
Oh.
That getting the grenades around the corners and stuff like that really is interesting. I mean, I don't remember if that game had like an aggressive auto aim or not, but I feel like because I was just a child when I was playing it and I was good at it, it probably did. But
I don't know. Kids and games.
kids and games, yeah. There's also some cool tricks you can do, like do you guys remember when developers were talking about the sneaky tricks they put into games to make gamers feel like they're doing a good job, but then actually it's the game making them do a good job?
Nothing really specific. I'm sure there's a lot of that stuff with science and
There-
mousetraps and stuff.
Absolutely. There was a tweet thread probably a number of years ago now that I'm thinking about it, and they talked about stuff like health not being exactly representation of how much you've actually been taking hits. Like for example, the first 10 hits you take about 50% of your health. Then the next 100 hits you take their other 50% kind of thing. And
I've
so
noticed that just playing the games, yes.
Void Rifter has that. But it's the purpose of it is to make you feel like you're on the edge of your seat. You know what I mean? Push you
Right.
for that. Like that's kind of neat. I had to do that actually because I just kept dying too quickly, and the respawn system in Void Rifter for the longest time was broken, so it would crash the game. And so I had to fix that because I wanted to
Yeah,
still be able
that-
to test it.
Nice. I actually, you mentioned the event you were at last week. I actually saw your stage in the I can't talk. Spattle Ape group. Is that what you mentioned?
Yeah.
I was in there
Spatial Ape.
talking to them after the event ended, and I saw your booth over there. I'm like, oh, sweet, I'm talking to that guy on Monday. It was really
Hell
neat
yeah.
to see. Cool little booth.
Yeah, that was cool. I liked that a lot. That was I didn't know it was in VR until like the last minute. Because they're like, "Did you get the build?" I'm like, "What build?" And I didn't realize because on the website it says download access or something like that to the conference, and then there was, of course, as to be expected, issues with the build where it would crash for if new people came in. But we got that all fixed out, and it was so cool to look over and see some of the creatures from my game, some of the dimensional monster things from my game standing there. And I mean, they of course had to size them down significantly in order for them to fit in the booth, but
Yeah.
it was really cool. I like that. I look forward to the day that that's real. You know, like I actually walk up and there's a real one of them. You know, not like actually real, like where it's attacking people, but like just a big
Yeah.
tall thing. I have actually an important question as well. Did you customize your mech?
I did not. I had some time constraints over the weekend, so I only got to hop in and play for like 40 minutes. So I think it loads up. Is it a random one or is it always
Usually,
like the?
usually randomized it.
Yeah.
first.
So I looked at it. I'm like, oh, sweet options, and I'm like, I wish I had time to look at them. I just hopped in the game and got into it.
There's a randomization button on the far left, where you can just press it and it will jumble up a mech for you. But
How many options for each? Like, what are the customization points and all that?
so pretty much every point on the mech is customizable. I say every, but I think that's not necessarily true. You can change the canopy, you can change the shoulders, you can change the shoulder mounts, you can change the thighs and the feet and the shins of the mech. You can also change the hips. And you can pretty much make it look like anything you want. You can also change the classification of weight class. And so you can make it a light mech, which is wicked fast and hard to get killed, but it only has 2 guns. And the medium class, which has 3 guns, and it's the one that we are all familiar with from the original demo. And then you get the heavy, which is pretty much twice the size of the medium, and it's slow, but it has an unreasonable amount of health. Which, of course, when you're slow in a game that you're meant to be fast, you kind of need that. So, and so I was thinking about making it so that each part has its own weight and stuff like that. But then I thought to myself, this isn't a simulator.
Yeah.
So I chose not to go that route yet. We'll see. Maybe I'll put a hardcore option. But yeah, you can also change the colors and everything. And so there's 4 colors, I think. There's also a ton of guns in there now. So instead of just being the artillery Gauss cannon, the automatic and the shotgun, there's a laser, there's rocket launchers, there's RPG systems, there's a faster automatic cannon, and there's shotgun, of course, and what else was there? There's a sword I'm working on. I don't know how well that's going.
Nice.
Swords are hard.
Yeah.
VR sword. You gotta get close to them, and they don't want you to get close to them. So,
That's where you have
But,
it swing it and you don't really know what the range is. You just sort of like, and sometimes melee in games, you punch or you swing your knife, somebody dies like 8 feet away. Just make it like 30 meters. You can't tell. Just lose a limb.
exactly. I mean, that's kind of what the sword was a shorter laser, with limited range. But it didn't feel good, so I turned it off. But yeah, so there's tons of things in there now. You got probably, I'd say, an hour or 2 of just customization fun you can do and just playing around a little bit with it.
Nice.
And that's cool. Hopefully I don't get people stuck in the create a character screen. Like I always get stuck in them. But
That's what I was gonna say. If PJ jumped right in the game, it would have been me and been like, ooh, and then I would have wasted my 40 minutes on, mech toenail polish or something.
There'll be like a new game that's coming out or released, say on like a Friday, and we'll plan to get it and be like, "You ready to hop in yet?" He'd be like, "No, I haven't settled on a character yet," and it's like, it's been 2 hours, man. Come on.
that was me with Cyberpunk.
Yep. If it's Cyberpunk, I was in that one for like 3 hours and I realized, like, wait a minute. I really loved CDPR going in, so I didn't know anything about the game. I went back and retroactively watched the trailers after I started playing. I didn't even know it was first person. I didn't know anything about the game. So I walked in there and I was like, not that I minded, the character creator is pretty good, but I was like, I didn't know anything about the game. And I was like, well, I could say, look in a mirror and see my bald head. But yeah, we'll do stuff like World of Warcraft or anything we're going to play where it's multiplayer. It's like, well, I'll see you in like 2 days because I might have to try out every single class and then pick a race and then pick how I want it to look.
Oh, wasn't
then-
it Sea of Thieves where you're like you kind of create something and then you delete it or so, and you're just
You'd
like,
have,
I'm on
like-
my 50th person, I can't.
You have like 8 spots where you just kind of scroll or something, and you push a button, it randomizes a character, and you can just kind of spin. You can kind of hang on to a few of them because you don't really know. It's a really good random character system. But they made such pained expressions and such happy ones when they first showed up that I got sad when I'd like wipe one out because I'd be like, well, that entity is gone from the universe, never to return.
Those
just got
numbers
some-
have now vanished.
Right? Yeah, like the energy is still here, but the matter, the physical shape is gone. I don't know how long it took me. I was probably well over 50 by the time I stuck with Benson, the big jovial oath. I had to be there. It was like a good 4 hours, and you don't even. That's not even a creator. That's just a random picker. And maybe it wasn't
Yeah.
4 hours. That might be a little more
So
exaggerated, but it was way too long.
when Wookiee fires a Void Rifter, I'll time him and get back to you.
Hell yeah.
So it's the gameplay itself. If you get out of the mech customization, is about 15 minutes, I believe. It's 15 minutes worth of waves. So it's not meant to be like the original demo, which was 40 minutes minimum. But it's about 15 minutes, but it's replayable because you guys can play together.
Yeah.
Co-op. And
I love-
respawning works.
Nice. Like co-op is so important. Like you said, you don't want to play games alone, and it's very much true in my case. Like, there's nothing like a good single player that does it well. But you know, my Wookiee's my brother, and he's lived down south for a long time now, and it's the only way we can hang out, especially when there's a pandemic going on. So anything with co-op is just amazing for me. So I appreciate it.
I think that the pandemic's really pushed VR very hard too.
Yeah.
That being able to play mini putt with your friends in VR, there aren't words to describe how much that feels great after like 6 months of isolation. You know,
Yeah.
you'll swing a golf club at them. You know,
I gotta hit some people. Like I've been playing the Mass Effect Legendary remake and talk about character creator. I went through the first one, created a character, imported it to the second one, and then still like looked at it, looked at the default, and went and did a custom, and I kept going back and forth. Still spent like I already created a character in the first game. I still spent a good hour and a half like trying to copy it and then tweak it in the second one. I'm an idiot. But that's a pretty good single player game. Keeps me, you know, like the story, even though I don't remember exactly what happened from like a decade ago, but it's fun to run through. But then a few nights after, my brother and I played with our nephew and some Vermintide 2. These are all non-VR games, sorry. But just having 2 to 3 of us doing crazy, stupid stuff together was like such a better experience than even a good single player by myself. So I get you. It's awesome to play good games alone, but it's even better to play good games with people. And in VR,
Absolutely.
it's just everything's exponentially better if it's done well in VR because there's just you could be playing a Nintendo 64 game like, you know, Zelda 64 in VR is better than playing most games in high def on a projector. So
absolutely. Yeah, I'm a huge I mean, I don't honestly play video games to play alone anymore because I'm an extroverted person. I'm such an extrovert that playing games alone is just boring to me. So always will have every game I make have co-op, and of course that was such a main focus for Void Rifter, because it's one thing to play a surrealistic hellscape alone in a giant robot. It's another thing to play with friends over and over and over again to constantly do the memes, like in, of course, Halo 3, as I always point out. I have played Halo 3 probably over 50 times the campaign.
Nice.
Like I know it word for word at this point, and you know, you always meet a new person. It's like, let's play Halo 3.
do you ever be like, oh, I think I could remember how to do that, and you know, go easy on the new guy, and just
To obliterate them. Yes,
show him
absolutely.
around.
Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, co-op is, to me, it's couch co-op is, I miss it so much.
Yeah.
And so it kind of died off for a little bit, but I think co-op has come back with vengeance, especially again because of the pandemic and that cooperative nature. Like, we do want to go on adventures by ourselves, but I want to go adventures with people all the time because
Mm-hmm.
it's so much fun.
And like
Yeah.
everything when Call of Duty hit a big, like, that's around another decade ago too. Everything went to just multiplayer only. But then everything, like, you got to keep things fresh. And I don't really care for the fort or the battle royale stuff.
Mhm.
That's the only really like twist on anything. And it's like how can you go wrong with shooting each other, shooting friends, shooting random people? It's you just know ingenuity. So co-op started to seem to go away, and now a lot of games still are starting to have co-op and split screen and stuff. So thank God.
I 100% agree.
Yeah, it's sometimes I want to squash people's evenings, and sometimes I just want to ignore everything and just laugh with people while still squashing NPC streams. That's fine too.
Absolutely.
My wife
I actually,
will play co-op split screen. She will not, like, we have Xboxes and everything in many rooms in the house, but she will not play like a online game or like a system link game, but she'll play couch co-op. So I take what I can get, and it's awesome.
absolutely. My girlfriend, significant other, is huge into co-op games. I mean, we tried Halo PvP, and she was like, "No, I don't like this." And so we went to the Halo campaign. She's like, "This is awesome." So we do a lot of that. And I feel it. Being able to sit there and play with somebody is just something else entirely. Just to note something that was mentioned a moment ago, I actually thought heavily about putting a battle royale into Void Rifter. I thought about it. I really thought about it. But then I realized I can't because I don't have the ability to put that many players in. My rooms, I rent servers for it, which thankfully they're dirt cheap servers, so they're very reliable, so that's good. They're through Photon, which is built by Exit, and they are super reliable for a really good price. But they are limited to 20 people. And I guess I could do a battle royale with 20 people, but like at that point, why don't I just make it PvP or elimination or something like that?
Yeah. Even old school like Halo, everyone knows what a sniper rifle is, and it was like a different contest to run to get it or something like that. It's like, just let me change my loadout. Like, again, going back to Call of Duty and stuff, when whichever Modern Warfare added in, you get 10 customization points, and you can kind of screw around with your loadup and, tweak it, go around, lose a round, and then, tweak it again. I was like, thank God. I'm sick of running around looking for guns because, like, I didn't play a lot of Unreal Tournament or Quake way back in the day, but I was familiar. I'm like, can I just keep the assault rifle? I don't want to have to find it and then get shot in the ass. I want to have the gun and shoot the other people in the ass. That should be the point. Like, it's
Absolutely.
never sat well with me.
Well, it's been about an hour, and I do have to get going.
Really?
So I do really appreciate you guys bringing me in here. It has been fantastic. I'm looking
Yeah, man.
forward to getting as much word out about Void Rifter as possible since it's coming out very soon. And I need to do marketing, but which is hard and terrifying because marketing is something I have no idea how to do. But this helps. This is every podcast, every chat. It makes such a difference, and I really appreciate the fact that good feedback on the game and stuff like that. So
Yeah, no problem. I have no problem like making videos and all that fun stuff. If you need any help or anything we can do, we like to help. So
heck yeah. Well, I have good news. At the end of probably this month, there's going to be a first section of the campaign releasable as a demo for people can try on their Oculus Quests or flat screens. You have to come to the Discord to get it.
Nice.
Otherwise, it will only be available for 1 week, and it'll be the first 2 sections of the campaign.
Awesome.
So, I would recommend joining the Discord if you haven't.
Yeah, we'll definitely tweet reminders and anything we've talked about and all the links to Void Rifter, like on SideQuest or wherever it's available. We'll have those in the show notes if you're listening, so you have something to click on and go check it out.
All right. Well, I will talk to you guys later. Thanks again. You guys have a good night.
You too, man.
And thanks for everybody who listened. All right. Bye-bye.
See ya. Now, listeners, that was Sean Murphy, creator of Void Rifter. coming soon. There is a build available. Join the Discord. We'll have a link in the show notes below. Just a fun arcade mech game. Pretty fast paced. I had fun with it.
Very interesting looking. I like all the lights, the colors. Very good visuals to keep you engaged for a while. The little threads as the little enemies explode into swirlies.
But we'll keep you posted whenever they come to release, or like with the campaign demo you mentioned. But that's it for this episode. I am PJ,
I'm Wookie.
and this was our VR verdict.